I want to welcome you to the Retro Rogues Live. Please pay attention to our warning graphic. It states that the Retro Rogues Live show is intended for an adult audience and not intended for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. Again, I want to welcome you to tonight's episode. On tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the absolutely fantastic work of one of my favorite comic book artists, George Perez. We're also going to be talking about a brand new role-playing game that sounds really awesome. I'm excited about. We have a special guest, Mr. Ronnie Shenks, is actually here to talk about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And in addition to that, we're also going to be talking about the latest or the newest, most recent trailer actually for Cobra Kai, all that and so much more on tonight's episode of the Retro Rogues Live. I want to welcome you to the show. My name is Dave Beatty. I am one of your hosts. For nearly the last 30 years, I've been a professional illustrator and graphic designer. I've worked on a lot of fun things that some people have heard of, such as for tonight's episode, I'm going to highlight the work I got to do on Firestorm, actually on Brightest Day. I'm also going to talk about the work that I did on Grifter, which I still love to this day, and Flashpoint Wonder Woman. But enough about that. I want to welcome back, as always, my great co-host. This is Mr. Eric Alexander. Eric, please tell the folks, hopefully watching or listening at home, some of the fun things you have worked on as a creative professional.
Yes, hello, everyone. I'm Eric Alexander, also known as Bass God 14. That's Bass God 14, not Bass God. That's Bass God, like a bass guitar. I am the Chief Financial Officer of Bad Bob Productions. I actually have my official shirt on, which was made by Kirby Teased, Dave's company. And currently I'm the executive producer on a film called Staycation, which has been filming on location in California and all over the world via Zoom. And Dave, you are muted.
Sorry about that. I was trying to pull something up, and then I started clicking on the wrong freaking button. I couldn't get back. This mouse, I tell you, this mouse right here, I do not have the Modern Family double click problem. It is the mouse, everyone. I've got to get a new mouse. All right, but enough about that. I want to welcome actually to the show our special guest. This is Ronnie Shenks. Ronnie is also my brother. Ronnie is a longtime comic book fan, probably because he was around me too much as a kid. But he also is on a fun show I like to watch from time to time called Saturday Night Gaming. They also do a podcast. And Ronnie, why don't you tell the folks, hopefully watching or listening at home, a little bit more about what it is that you do with Saturday Night Gaming.
All right, so Saturday Night Gaming, what I do, what do I not do? Everything that the others do. But no, Saturday Night Gaming was the brainchild of the main two, Scott Hibbard and Tony Stevens. I heard them, it's like Tony had just ran we are already doing podcasts, which those are still up and running. So Saturday Night Gaming and whatnot. You can get to everything through the links that they'll share with you later. But yeah, it's we saw everybody.
Ronnie, I just shared them right now, just so everybody knows that's not spam. That actually is the link to your website there that I just shared right now.
Yeah, it's so. Sorry, what was my train of thought? Oh no. I am so sorry, everyone. I'm really tired.
It's all good. So part of the reason we wanted to have you on the show tonight, Ronnie, is because I know that you all have basically created like your own RPG, your own role-playing game, and it's available now for people to check out. Tell us a little bit about how you actually created. Like, did it just kind of spin out of the gaming that your group was already doing, or was it an idea that someone had? Like, how did that come about?
Yes, thank you. That jogged my memory while I was trying to get to. So it came about. We kept doing all these Marvel games, and we saw how everything was connected in the MCU and whatnot. Everything, like what happened here, would affect what happened in the other spot, etc.
Right.
So we wanted to do that with gaming, and we had been experimenting with that and the Marvel stuff, and it went really well. So I overheard freaking Tony and Scott just while they're talking, it's like, oh yeah, man, it's like we need to create our own thing and da 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 da. And I just kind of slid in, and I was like, I'm in. They're like, you haven't even heard what we're talking about. I'm like, I'm a writer, and it involves writing. I'm in.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it's so it's a lot of the content was stuff that Tony's had in his mind, and Scott has had in his mind for like years. And it's just they're finally able to get those ideas out. I mean, these are characters that we're getting to see that Tony had created when he was in like middle school and all that such. Like ever since he was like when he could pick up a pencil, like when he can create stuff. I mean, this is where all these characters and stuff are coming from.
Right.
And but yeah, it's like we have like a whole like huge deep lore, which like as you see right there, Valos, that's one of his. That is definitely like Tony's precious baby right there. But it involves like Vikings, and it's like Viking-esque. You have the Seaborn, which is a really fun. It's good lord, that was the craziest game we've ever played. I mean, you had me. I was playing Fulgrim, which like is what if you take the Tick and mix him with Conan?
All right.
It's like he. Someone
like
asked him. It's like
Conan.
they handed him a book, and he's like, "I'm about to beat you to death with knowledge." So, and he would actually attack him with the book. You know, that's the kind of like crazy stuff that he would do. Then he had like Soul, which was another friend of mine's, Quinn's. His character was really good. Those two are actually brothers, and he is basically became a. They're both children of the Dani, which are the gods of that universe or that realm. But Heavenscape encompasses many. It's all the realms together. Everything is connected, and we wanted to make something where. I mean, you can literally jump on any point. You can create your own universe in there. I mean, you can fit any genre in there. And so we wanted to do something that was super open-ended for anybody to do what they wanted to do. A lot of creative freedom, a lot of it's fun. And the system itself, which I'll get into after this, it's just like it's really simple and stuff too. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It's like we have like so much, just everything's in depth. I mean, we're seeing, good lord, we have like we're ending year 2 of our podcast for Heavenscape. That says anything. It's like we have that much stories and stuff to tell. I mean, there's a lot of characters that we've created over the time, and it's just. I mean, it's also great to see how your plans get derailed when you actually run a game.
Right.
From the players.
Now you said that the game involves obviously, the concept of the multiverse.
Yes.
And you're saying it encompasses a lot of different genres. So would you consider that to be kind of the thing that makes your game maybe unique among other games? Because I know that obviously the multiverse can play a role in other games. Obviously if we're playing a DC game, obviously the multiverse will have kind of a component to it. But is it because your game is built on the concept of the multiverse that's what makes it unique?
It's one of the things, yes. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, you can go from like a high fantasy setting, like oh Lord, I'm rusty on those terms. I'm just going to say fantasy setting.
Okay.
Like Lord of the Rings, something like that, all the way up to, say, Blade Runner. I mean, just two, or you can mix the two. I mean, you can go like anything. I mean, you can do like a Western or like a Star Trek type deal. I mean, you can do like just so many things with this. I mean, that's how we built the system. It's like you can create your own feats, you can create your own exploits. And of course, we're going to be releasing characters and exploits as we go further.
Right.
We're going to release, more supplements and stuff like that. for people, like example characters that you can run with. We're going to be releasing, different adventures and stuff from like Valos and whatnot. Sheol. Good Lord, if you guys ever have to fight in gloom, may God help you.
Right.
It's there's an angry Strathmore in there, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, it's like you can do like any genre you want to fit any of them in there, and the way that we made the system, it works. And we're still making our own. Like even now, like we're play testing like new rules and stuff like that too. So for expansions and whatnot, like we're about to get really in depth. We're going to be doing mechs and stuff in the future. So that's going to be a lot.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. So it's interesting because based on what you said, Ronnie, the game reminds me actually of back in the 80s, there was this black and white comic series called Warlock 5. And in Warlock 5, all these different kind of beings from across, again, all these different multiverses and timelines and everything all converged kind of essentially to do battles. So some of them were like almost like robot Terminator type characters. Some of them were powered dragons. Some of them were like basically like magicians and mages and warlocks from like the past. It was a really crazy, interesting series. And what you've been describing actually with Heavenscape actually kind of reminds me of that quite a bit, which I think is really cool. Eric, do you have
there's actually there's another one that also comes to mind, which I was into the Palladium game system quite a bit in high school. In fact, we used to play Robotech a lot. We actually had a role-playing game club at my high school my freshman year, and we were interested in that system, and they came out with a game called Rifts. I don't know if you remember that one at all, Ronnie or Dave. You guys are familiar that much with the Palladium games?
Not a clue.
But besides Robotech, one of their big licenses actually was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of all things. But in Rifts, the idea was that basically there had been like an atomic war, and the killing of so many people at the same time actually created a rift in like time and space. And so you had like beings from, you had everything from aliens to wizards, right? And then they even have these like expansion modules, so you could actually like incorporate your Robotech characters into Rifts or your Teenage Mutant Turtle characters into Rifts, and you would modify them so they would, wouldn't get their asses kicked, right away, because the systems were all kind of different, based on how much damage they could take and all that kind of stuff. So it's a neat concept. I definitely dig it. I think it's cool.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool. And I actually played the Ninja Turtles version, Eric. I love that freaking game. I occasionally watch like eBay and stuff, because every once in a while someone will put like the core rule book up, like one of the original ones, and I'm always like going, I want to get it, but I never do, because I don't know. I don't obviously have time to play a lot of games, it seems like, or do honestly any of the stuff I really want to do. But no, that's really cool. That's really cool. So yeah, this sounds really interesting. And then Eric just posted up, actually, this is a drive-through RPG. This is where you can actually go to basically get, would you consider this the core rule book, Ronnie, the basic edition here for Heavenscape?
It's the core rulebook. It's the backbone of what we created, and it lays out has the exploits. It explains how everything works, and it's the rules, how to play, how to create characters, how to do actions, etc. But it's going to have everything in there, and it's very, very detailed. Our head honcho is definitely, thank God he knows how to crunch things, because when it comes to numbers and crunching systems, I'm like, what? But yeah, he's, good Lord. Scott Hibbert is basically the Kevin Feige of the Heavenscape project, and I highly thank him for allowing me to be on there. And it's and of course Tony Stevens as well. It's like, that man,
good Lord, those two, like, ideas are just like constantly spawning out. And it's like, I have ideas coming too. And then I hear their ideas and I'm like, well, I don't want to run a game because yours sounds awesome. I want to play in your games now. It's like,
Very cool.
but yeah, it's really good, and it spawned out a lot of things. Like we're gonna have merchandise and stuff like that coming from the main website. We're gonna have we actually have a YouTube web series right now. That's kind of like a radio drama type thing almost. It's Tony Stevens is narrating the adventures of Strathmore, and that's one of the main characters of Heavenscape, because he's been so involved in everything. And one of the first episodes I'm actually on there too is Stein, which is the evil scientist, and that was a lot of fun. Also learned you do not move mics while you're recording. I have
Yep.
That is correct, sir.
because I have the General Zod problem, where I would just want to grab the mic and talking to him, like, "Kneel before me, son of Jor-El,"
Right.
just walking around like a wrestler.
Right.
But yeah, it's they have to handcuff me now behind my back so I don't touch the mic anymore. But but yeah, that's really good. And then of course we have the podcast, like where we record. We have one recorded game that we play in the garage. That's a lot of fun. That we record each week. Sorry, my mind is moving way too fast right now. But yeah, that one's that we record releases. We do 2 sessions a night, and then we release those sessions weekly. It's like they usually run about like an hour or so, and it actually has us doing like voice work, role playing, and all that stuff. And you actually get to hear how the system works, which the system itself is really, really simple. I mean, good Lord, it can be simple and it can be crunchy. If you want to be a wizard, it's crunchy, and God help you. But like magic and stuff, I mean, it's still understandable, of course. But me, it's like I'm a simple person. I like to pick up a stick and hit people.
Right.
But it's a D20 system. You only use one D20 throughout the entirety of it. So you have benchmarks you want to hit. It's like if you hit, you have to hit within, let's see here. So say the benchmark was 20 and your strength was 15. So you would have to roll, you would have to roll 5 or higher, basically, to hit that benchmark. Now, while this is mathematically impossible, if you were some way, somehow, to roll like a 10 or get like a 10 total, that's an epic failure, and something bad's going to happen. So if you get 10 below, it's going to be really bad. Up to 5 below, it's a partial failure. And then 10, if you get 10 above it, it's an exceptional success. Something crazy good's going to happen, depending on the DM at the time. So just depends. And then we have things called favors, which you can cash in at any time. So it's like, say, like if you rolled, horribly, you would roll you put a favor in, you get to re-roll. Or you can like add bonuses or something like that before you roll. But it's a lot of fun. And it's actually, oh wow, I actually called it favor instead of fate one time. Go me.
Well, very cool. Very cool. Do you have any other questions about it, Eric?
Ronnie, I'm curious. Obviously, this format is digital. Are there any plans to release like a hard copy in the future?
Yes. They're actually working on that right now. They're finalizing like the Sorry, my cat opened the door and I don't know how. Yeah, it's going to be, they're working on it right now. They're just finalizing, getting some proofs and stuff like that to make sure it's going to be good to go to print. So it's almost there.
Awesome. You'll definitely have to come back when you do that. But in the meantime, I did put the link out for the digital site. That's through DriveThruRPG, guys, drivethrurpg.com. So that wasn't spam. That was me. I was sharing that. Check it out. It's only $3.99, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, $3.99, you get to have some of the best entertainment you can have. Heck yeah, man. Man, it's a lot of fun. You can bring in family, and it's good family time. It's good time with friends. I mean, I make it every Saturday, or try to. It's a lot of fun.
Matthew Reed is in the house from Facebook, and he says it sounds like a cool game.
Thank you. It's we worked really, really hard on it, and it's going to pay off because we got some great content, and it's a lot of fun.
Very, very cool. We do have a couple other comments from the Rogues Gallery, so I just want to acknowledge some folks here. David Motz came in early, and I think he was referring to David Beatty. He said, nice hat, which I agree. Dave, that is a cool hat. Val Suarez, also from Facebook, said, bass solo, please. Val, unfortunately, I do not have my bass set up at this time to give you a bass solo, but I appreciate the sentiment. And out there on YouTube land, Gap is in the house. He says, I was on Twitter, but now I'm here. Hail Dave, Eric, and Daniel. And Gap, of course, I hope you'll also say hey to Ronnie, our guest here. By the way, it looks like we just lost Dave, so we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Maybe a technical difficulty. Also from YouTube, we've got Jacob Symbiote Barton. He says, hello, good evening, everyone. Jacob also said that he shared the link out there on Twitter. We appreciate that, Jacob. Thank you very much. And, of course, Jane is here. Ronnie, Jane is here. And she's saying hey to everybody from Facebook land. I don't know what is going on exactly with Dave. Hopefully he will text me or something. Maybe this has happened to me in the past where my internet just went down during the show. It does look like Dave is coming back. So I think he should be coming back in a second. He's there backstage. So
okay.
Let's get him back in there. All right, Dave. You able to hear us okay, Dave? Having some technical problems?
Yeah, I was trying to move something, and I kicked an outlet, and I basically unplugged the router.
That's classic. That's awesome. That is classic. Asia's also in the house from Facebook. She says, Ronnie, hello, darling.
Hello.
So Asia's our queen of the Rogues Gallery is in the house as well. Appreciate everybody that's making comments. Jane, of course, says it's great to see Ronnie on the show. And I agree. It is great to see him. Ronnie, you've been on the show in the past, but you weren't exactly yourself, right?
Yes. I was asking, actually I asked Dave, it's like, did you want me to be here or do you want me to get Stein to be here tonight? And he's like, let's have just you tonight. And I'm like, okay. It's actually nice for once. It's, for me doing interviews, I usually have to have notes, and I forgot to write down notes this time. So I was like, brain, don't fail me. But it's a lot of fun. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy I got to actually speak about Heavenscape and whatnot. I mean, it's definitely a huge passion of ours. And, we just want to share with everyone out there, like provide some escapism in this crazy world, bring out some fun and some light into it. I mean, there's way too much darkness right now. So.
Do you think it's possible, like, that you guys would ever pursue actually like a video game version of this?
We're all gamers, so yes. I definitely foresee that. I foresee a whole bunch of different avenues we're more likely going to go down.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be really cool. Jacob made kind of a funny comment earlier where when I said hard copy, he said a hard copy for PS4. Which, by the way, that's kind of an interesting thing too, because especially a lot of independent games, they generally only come out digitally. And then you have like some of these smaller publishers like Limited Run Games, and they'll do like literally a limited run of hard copy of the game. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's kind of interesting, that particular business model.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely familiar. I missed out on the Scott Pilgrim hard copy, so I was like, oh.
Asia says she's got dibs on beta testing, so she's volunteering right off the bat.
All right, there
Awesome.
you go. Very cool. Is there any more comments in the Rogues Gallery for the game?
Actually, Brandon just came on. Brandon Scott, also known as Hollywood. So he says, "Hey
Hi,
guys,
Hollywood."
Out there in Facebook land.
I wanted to, before I actually started coloring, we're about 26 minutes in. Before I actually started working on this color piece, I did want to actually focus and talk about George Perez, but before I start coloring and stuff, because I tend to get distracted and I can't really focus. And I did want to take a little bit of time to talk about George here. And I've got a few things I want to show, and then I'll probably get started on actually coloring that piece of artwork. If that sounds good to you, Eric.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I know you were showing some stuff prior to the show, so
yeah. So I have a lot more stuff that's actually I can't get to, that I've moved stuff around the closet and I couldn't actually find it. But I do have a few things I wanted to show. But I wanted to start off with, I think most people in basically in the comic book fandom has already heard this, but I was going to read just a little bit of the post that actually George actually put up. It says, from George to his fans, friends, and extended family, please read below. It says this page will, anyhow, let's go ahead and skip down. It says, to all my fans, friends, and extended family, it's rather hard to believe it's been almost 3 years since I formally announced my retirement from producing comics due to my failing vision and other infirmities brought on primarily by my diabetes. At the time, I was flattered and humbled by the number of tributes and testimonials given me by my fans and peers. The kind words spoken on those occasions were so heartwarming that I used to quip the only thing missing from those events was me lying in a box. It was amusing at the time, I thought. Now, not so much. On November 29th, I received confirmation that after undergoing surgery for a blockage in my liver, I have stage 3 pancreatic cancer. It is surgically inoperable, and my estimated life expectancy is between 6 months to a year. I have been given the option of chemotherapy and/or radiation therapy, but after weighing all the variables and assessing just how much of my remaining days would be eaten up by doctor visits, treatments, hospital stays, and dealing with the often stressful and frustrating bureaucracy of the medical system, I've opted to just let nature take its course, and I will enjoy whatever time I have left as fully as possible with my beautiful wife for over 40 years, my family, friends, and my fans. Since I received my diagnosis and prognosis, those in my inner circle have given me so much love, support, and help, both practical and emotional. They've given me peace. There will be some business matters to take care of before I go. I'm already arranging for my art agent to refund the money paid for sketches that I can no longer finish. And since despite only having one working eye, I can still sign my name. I hope to coordinate one last mass book signing to help make my passing a bit easier. I also hope that I will be able to make one last public appearance wherein I can be photographed with as many of my fans as possible, with the proviso that I get to hug each and every one of them. I just want to be able to say goodbye with smiles as well as tears. You can read more of this basically on George Perez's basically fan page, essentially on Facebook. I had known that George had retired, and I knew that he'd been dealing with a lot of different issues, but this was obviously quite a shock. I have Asia actually just says that I cried reading that so hard the first time. I have been fortunate enough to meet George on a couple of occasions. It was interesting, the way in which I met him was actually as a fellow professional, which was interesting because I was a fan first. obviously. And his work was a huge influence on me. And I have, like I said, over here, somewhere in this closet, I've got a ton of signed George Perez comics. But I do have a few things I wanted to showcase. But I was thinking about how it seems like that we spend a lot of time memorializing people and celebrating their life and their work after they pass. And oftentimes we don't really do enough of that actually when we know someone is ill or going through something. At a time in which maybe some uplifting thoughts and a thank you for all you've done could maybe actually help, right? Even if just even in a spiritual way, if you want to look at it in that context. I have a friend at work. Her name is Deb at my new day job. And she said that her mom used to always say that to do something nice for someone while they're alive is gold. To do something nice for someone while they're sick is silver. And to do something nice for someone after they've passed is effectively lead. So I want to be more of the gold silver category. So George is still with us, and I'm very happy about that. But I wanted to talk about his work and celebrate all the amazing things that he has given us as comic book fans, actually here on the show, and take some time to talk about the impact that he's had on me personally. I know the impact that he's actually had on Ronnie as well. And those of you in the Rogues Gallery who are familiar with George's work who want to talk about it. Now, Eric, I think you said before the show started, you said you weren't too terribly familiar with George's work.
Yeah, I've mentioned it on the show before that growing up, the comics that I primarily collected were like G.I. Joe, Transformer comics, a lot of the licensed type stuff. I didn't actually collect a lot of superhero comics as a kid. Most of the superhero stuff was the cartoons for me, like Spider-Man His Amazing Friends or the Super Friends, things like that. So I'm not terribly familiar with his work, but it's interesting that because actually a lot of other people we're doing here on the show, I've seen people sharing a lot of his artwork on Twitter. That's where I'm most active is on Twitter. And I have to say, it's some amazing work.
George does such incredible stuff. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I've got a couple here. Here is an oldie but a goodie favorite. And then I have a more recent favorite. Still kind of an oldie for some people probably, but I consider one is earlier in his career and the other one is later in his career. So this is probably the thing that he's going to be known for most is his run on Teen Titans. This is the archive edition that DC put out. This is volume 1. I actually have volume 1 and volume 2. His work on Teen Titans, he is going to be remembered for this. His work with Marv Wolfman on this series is absolutely incredible, and should be highly celebrated. And if you're not familiar with George's work, I would honestly seriously encourage that you actually start with Teen Titans. This stuff is absolutely incredible. And then the other one that I was going to highlight and talk about is a later, and this is actually Marvel. That's DC, and this is Marvel. And I'm going to talk about his Avengers run actually with Kurt Busiek. This run here is absolutely incredible. The artwork in this is jaw-droppingly amazing. I mean, George does like huge battle scenes like no one, and you can just see just a little bit of this just in this wraparound cover. The stories in here are absolutely incredible. But this is again, this is Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers, and this is also a volume 1. But these are going to be the two that I personally am going to recommend, just from an artistic standpoint alone. So I want to recommend Teen Titans Volume 1, and I'm going to recommend Avengers Volume 1 as well. Both really great series. And a lot of those, especially the Avengers, highlights, I think, what a lot of fans think of George for, and that's these incredible sequences with like hundreds of heroes. But there's also, he's done so much work. Asia is in the Rogues Gallery, and she's talking about She-Hulk for the Win. He's done so much amazing work. And then there's a lot of other things that people don't think about. George actually drew the Logan's Run comics series, actually for Marvel back in the day, talking about licensed property type stuff. He's done so much. He had his creator-owned series, Crimson, like Saxon Violins or Violins, one of the two. I probably pronouncing that wrong. But he's done so much absolutely incredible work on both Marvel and DC. And he actually did some work actually at CrossGen at one time as well. I mean, just the breadth of his work is incredible. I got 2 more books I'm going to show, and then I'm going to get started coloring. And then Ronnie, if you would talk a little bit about George, I'd appreciate that because I know you're a fan too. So if you want to just see just the art, I think this is still in print. It may not be, but I'm sure you could find a copy of it. This is Modern Masters Volume 2. This is George Perez. This is an absolutely fantastic book. This was actually published by Tomorrow's. Just a really, really great book. It's got a lot of really great, not Crimson, was it Crimson? Not was it Crimson Plague, I think is what it is. Yeah, Crimson Plague, not just Crimson. But they've got a really great interview in here and some absolutely incredible artwork. Just really great stuff. This is a really, really great book. It's not too terribly expensive. And then this is another one I wanted to showcase here just real quickly. This is George Perez Storyteller. And this was actually published by Dynamic Forces. This one might be a little bit harder to find, but maybe not, I don't think too hard to find. This is another incredible book that's got a lot of really great artwork in it. And I thought this was kind of cool because let's see if I can find the right angle. George actually signed this for me many, many moons ago. So really, really great artist, absolutely incredible artist. I know a lot of people are going to talk about his work on Wonder Woman, and his work on Wonder Woman is absolutely incredible. Really redefined the character. But for me, it's going to be Titans. It's going to be his run on Avengers. From just an art standpoint alone, that stuff is absolutely incredible. So yeah, so that's, and again, if there's any opportunity, for if George is going to do a signing, I encourage you take advantage of it. If he does a public appearance and he's somewhere near you and you can get out to actually meet the man, if you're a fan, and say thank you in person, take the time and do that. I mean, his work informed so many of, I know a lot of us, like my childhood in particular. And I've had the chance to actually thank him, personally, one-on-one, face-to-face, and talk to him. And he's just one of the most amazing comic book professionals and just a really, really great guy. And anything we can do to make him feel loved and appreciated, while he's still here with us, I think we should do. And that's just my own personal opinion. Ronnie, why don't you talk about, because I know you've got a couple things you wanted to show and talk about George too.
Well, a couple of things to show. I don't know, because most of the things I wanted to show are in a box somewhere, not categorized. But yeah, George, oh man, it's that hit me like a ton of bricks when I read that. I was upset all day. I mean, he has been a huge influence on me as well. Me liking comics and everything because of I mean, his work's phenomenal. And just to paint a picture, it's when I was younger, I literally do not know any nursery rhymes or any bedtime stories or any fairy tales. And the teachers would get mad at me and look at me cockeyed when I'm like, okay, what's your favorite fairy tale? I would write down Crisis on Infinite Earths or Panic in the Sky. And they're like, what is this? And I'm like, Superman saved everybody. It's like Superman and Flash and all of them. They're like, this isn't like, like Red Riding Hood or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not lame. But yeah, it's yeah, my brother used to read that to me when I was younger, instead of like all the other stuff. And man, it's and that had to be the book that I had to get signed by George and Marv. And I can definitely say that their work is, let's see if I get the angle. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the main things that inspires me to keep writing, and one of my big inspirations for the Heavenscape thing that we're doing, Heavenscape game that we've made. It's a lot of my characters are really, really inspired from work that they've done, that he's been on and stuff like that. I mean, you'll see like classical things. You'll see like similarities here and there. Like you can definitely tell you know what they're inspired by. But man, it's just oh, he's so good. And then
Yep.
like even like his modern stuff that he was doing, I was reading the New 52 stuff when he was illustrating Superman and whatnot. I mean, I was like, what? He came back? That's amazing. I was like, it's about time we get some more good blood back in here. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoy his work. It's I've never read never read, and got to see his work on Marvel. Though his artwork looks phenomenal there, so I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. Wasn't able to read most of the stuff. It's just Crisis. That is like one of like the staples of my childhood and like super important to me. And I'm happy that I actually got to share that with him when he was in Memphis a couple of years back. So
And
that's
see that, and I was just gonna say that's the thing that's really amazing, because Ronnie brought up Crisis, and I'm sitting here thinking about all the amazing work that George actually did with the covers for Batman. Our first image of Tim Drake, our classic, Tim Drake as Robin, that classic cover. That's George
right.
Perez. I mean, the man like has had his his artwork has informed so much of basic comic book and continuity history within Marvel and DC. And then George didn't just have one run on Avengers, he had two runs on Avengers. He had a run in Avengers going back to I think it was like late 70s, early 80s. And then he went and did 1,000 other things, and then actually came back and then worked on that run that I was just showing you all earlier here on the show. I mean, it's just the quality of his work, the breadth of his work, the legacy he's going to leave behind as a storyteller is absolutely incredible. And you could just hear it. Ronnie's talking about Crisis. I'm talking about Teen Titans. I'm talking about Avengers. Asia's talking about She-Hulk. I mentioned Logan's Run. I mean, we're not even scratching the surface on the amount of work he's done, because his work on Wonder Woman is considered to be like what redefined the character. I mean, it is absolutely incredible to me. Just the breadth of work and the quality of the work, absolutely incredible.
Mott's had a comment, and I'm actually familiar with this one. He says, Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7 is pretty well-known cover, Death of Supergirl. That's one that I'm familiar with. That's one that I think is very, very iconic. I've seen that cover a million times, and it's one of those covers that I think is incredibly iconic. And this is coming from somebody who is not that familiar with George Perez's work. So
I was going to say, that's the book that I'm hunting for. That's the one I want. Is that Crisis issue.
And then one of the signed books I have by George, it is actually a Crisis book. It is actually it's the issue that has all the supervillains on it, and it's got Black Adam on it. And I actually was lucky enough to get him to sign that. And then I have some really early Firestorm stuff, actually, because I am a huge Firestorm fan. George actually did the backup Firestorm stories that were running in the Flash, again in the early 80s. And man, I just love that stuff. And then his Brave and the Bold series he did, again, going back to a more modern series. I mean, the work is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Matthew Reed actually put like a little bio in the Facebook there. He said George Perez is a retired American comic book artist and writer who primarily worked as a penciler. He came to prominence in the 1970s, penciling the Avengers for Marvel Comics, and returned to the franchise in the 1990s. In the 1980s, he penciled the New Teen Titans, which became one of DC Comics' top-selling books. And Matt goes on to say, I wish I knew about him when I was younger. And so I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Matt, because I like I said, I didn't particularly get in to superhero comics that much when I was younger. But I've seen, again, a lot of the artwork being shared now because a lot of people are doing exactly what we're doing, which I think is kind of neat. In fact, I thought he had passed because so many people were doing tributes and things like that. And then I realized, oh, okay, this is what's going on. I actually saw the same statement that Dave read earlier. But Asia was reaching out to you, Ronnie. He says, "Oh, Ronnie, you're all so cool. It's heartbreaking. Our legends are so valuable."
That's very true. Very true. And I've already started working here, everyone, just because we're a little bit into time here. So I am coloring I'm going to try to color. Again, I'm probably getting a little bit ambitious, but I've got a Fantastic Four piece actually here by George Perez. So I'm going to attempt to flat and do some quick renders on this live on the show here while we continue to talk about George and obviously talk about Cobra Kai and all these other fun things that we're talking about tonight.
Motts mentions Action Comics number 643 is another classic cover. Ronnie, are you familiar with that one?
When it comes to issue numbers, that is not number one. I am not familiar with things, more than likely. It's hard for me to keep track of issue numbers. But if I saw it, I would more than likely recognize it.
Yeah, I'm curious, Motts, if you want to let us know what that. A lot of us, like I said, like when you brought up the Supergirl cover, Motts, I knew exactly what that was. So if you want to maybe just fill us in on what was on Action Comics number 643, I think we'd appreciate that. So
I think isn't that the Superman and Wonder Woman kissing, or maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong though.
We'll see if Motts lets us know. So I suppose I could actually just look it up.
Yeah, now that I'm over here trying to color this piece, I'm going to be distracted now, everyone. Sorry. It's going to be a little bit harder for me to focus.
I know it's going to have to be more recent because the number is 600. So
no, 600 sounds about in the 80s.
Oh, the 80s. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sounds about like in the 80s.
Right. I keep forgetting it got up to 1,000 recently.
Yeah, it just did. Yeah, Action Comics been running for a long time.
It is true.
Action Comics actually predates Superman, even though Superman debuted in it.
When I do the search, like 5 or 6 different covers come up. Okay. Is that what we're talking about there, Motts?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I recognize that. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, Motts, you can't show pictures. He says, how do I show a picture? I know you sent a link too, but unfortunately, it doesn't work for me that way in the chat. It's the control room streamer is a little weird. But I am familiar with that cover. I've seen that cover before.
Yeah, Facebook won't let you comment with pictures or memes. I've tried.
But I am familiar with that cover, actually. That is pretty iconic.
There is another. Hold on.
Yeah, Asia says it's an homage to the first issue of Action Comics. It's Superman in a classic pose. and it does remind me of that first issue, the first appearance of Superman in his very first appearance. And Mott said it was just recently used on the new Superman run.
Really interesting.
And Matt says, I just checked that out, David, and it looks amazing.
Okay, here we go. All right, yeah, that's definitely. I think that's George. It sure looks like George. I think this. Let's see here. Action Comics 600. This is the one I was thinking of. And then I will put this on desktop. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is George. I'm trying to verify it. It looks like his style. I'm pretty sure it's him. Yeah, it's got to be him. I can't see that as being anyone else, to be honest. I'm gonna post this up here, and once I find the right spot, add an overlay. Go to desktop. This is the one I was thinking of.
Huh.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
To me, that's just a very, very iconic image. And I don't see his signature on there, but I'm pretty sure that's George because of the way the rendering is handled in the faces and the body. That really looks like George Perez's work. I was looking at some other images trying to see if I could identify his signature, but I don't see it readily apparent. But I'm pretty sure that's him. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's George's work. And then I'm going to get back to coloring here. So I've probably bitten off more than I can chew tonight, but we'll see how this goes.
You can do it.
Yeah, just flatting is a very time-consuming process. Is the only problem.
Asia was saying, I love the classic Fantastic Four, but then she was asking, is that the issue Superman and Wonder Woman get it on and break everything? Laugh out loud. It says that there was a lot of action in that comic. Laugh out loud. That's pretty cool.
Like I said, it's just a very iconic image. When I think of Superman, I often think of that, and Wonder Woman. I'll often have that image in my head. It's always been, I don't know, it's just really iconic. And then I know that there's been other, like in the New 52, they made Superman and Wonder Woman a thing, even more kind of like officially, which was cool. But that's still the image that I see. And I whenever I see anyone draw anything where Superman and Wonder Woman are like an item, I always think they're indirectly homaging that, whether they realize it or not.
That makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah, definitely after saying that.
I did want to acknowledge Gap. He had to take off. He says, I'll catch y'all on the replay. I got to run to feed the herd of cats. But Gap, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate that. And definitely comment on the replay if you would like. We definitely appreciate your comments, even if they're not live. So,
thanks for being here, Gap.
Yeah, man.
Did you want to say anything more about George Perez, or are you guys okay to move on to Cobra Kai?
I was just one more thing. Just want to stress, it's like definitely, if you get a chance to meet him, meet him. He is one of the most humble and nicest human beings I've ever met in my life, and he is a hugger.
But yeah, it's I'll never forget meeting him and getting to tell him that story. And he is a awesome, awesome, awesome human being. And my prayers will definitely be there with him during this time.
I don't know. I think it was Mott's, but I'm not positive. I think it was. I may have got confused, but I think it was on your Twitter account, Mott's. You had a little story about meeting George Perez, and basically, like you were like, if I understood it correctly, it was like before he even knew it, like he had jumped up and taken a picture with him when he didn't even ask for one or anything like that. And it was like, so he had a picture of him on Twitter, and he says, "Yep, that was him." So I did see that. I did see that story that you shared on Twitter, Mons.
Yeah, George is a great guy. He's just a really, really great guy. And yeah, it's just, again, like I said, if you have the chance to meet him, take that time, get out there and meet him. And obviously, if you're a fan of his work or you're a fan of comics, definitely if he does a signing, that's a really great opportunity to basically have basically something signed by a living legend, because he's still with us. So don't sleep on those opportunities that if they present themselves, that's the big thing, and if he's going to be at a show, if you're a fan, definitely take the time, get out there, meet the man, and because he's just such a great guy. You won't regret it.
Yeah, Asia says, well, Fairy Black Mother would totally hug him. And Mott's, regarding his story, says, I never get pictures with comic pros, only because I'm not comfortable asking. After asking him to sign a couple comments, he jumps out from behind the table, grabs my phone, and has this picture taken. Says, George Perez is a fan-first type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I will say, as someone not familiar with his work, I will definitely be on the lookout to see where he might be doing that appearance that he referenced. So, and we'll have to talk about that on the show as well.
It'll be interesting too to see which show it is if he does actually get the opportunity to do that, which I think he will. It'll be really interesting to see what show he decides he wants to do that at. That's going to be a big deal. A really big deal.
Do you know where he's based out
of? Florida.
Okay.
Unless something's changed, I'm pretty sure he's still in Florida.
I know they have some shows out there, so
yeah.
So who knows, right?
All right. I think that's, unless anyone else has anything else they want to say, I think we're probably good, Eric, if we want to switch over to talking about Cobra Kai.
Asia does mention that Eric knows firsthand how I will snatch someone and take a selfie, laugh out loud. Yes, Asia is known to do that at events. So I still remember the first time I met Asia. She was coming to kind of check out our booth for occupants, which, Dave, you were there, and Russ Emanuel, and we were promoting the film and also the comic book at the time. So I remember that quite well. All right, I did want to talk about Cobra Kai. Ronnie, are you a big Cobra Kai fan?
Yes. This season cannot come fast enough.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people feeling that the same way as you. We did kind of share this poster earlier, and as you can see, it's obviously it's kind of like a mock-up for the All Valley Karate Championship, but it's actually an advertisement. So as you can see, it says December 9th, training begins. And there was a lot of speculation out there on social media that was going to be when the trailer dropped. And lo and behold, it is December 9th, and the trailer dropped today. Of course, look at the other dates there. It says December 13th, registration opens, which is interesting. I'm wondering what that means. December 15th, there's the team photo day, so I assume we're going to get some more pictures. I mean, I feel like that's reasonable. And of course, December 31st, tournament begins, that's actually when season 4 debuts on Netflix. So I am a little bit wondering about those other 2 dates, but it's confirmed, obviously, December 9th, training begins. What that meant was the trailer came out. The new full trailer came out for Cobra Kai. And Ronnie, you said you did get a chance to watch it, right?
Yes, I did. I watched it today, and I got all the tinglies when I saw Terry Silver, because I'm like, oh man, it's like they're doing it. They're bringing everybody back.
Very, very true. Yeah, Asia says, like a mousetrap, it can't come fast enough. Too much weight to handle. And I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. There is an almost like uncomfortable gap. I think part of that is because of the way Netflix dumps everything, right? It's binge watching, right? That's their model, as opposed to like Disney Plus.
Thank God.
Stuff comes out every week, once, it comes out. So it's a little different. Val Suarez says, love it. And I do have some images. So we do get in trouble when we do actual trailers on here. It's happened multiple times, unfortunately. We get the copyright strikes and all that garbage. So what I did was I took some fairly random screen captures, but they're at least, I think, in the order of how they appear in the trailer. So I thought this was kind of a fun image at the beginning. They just have Johnny's Badass mixtape number 4, with the classic Walkman. Ronnie, did you ever have a Walkman like this, a Sony Walkman?
Trying to remember. Yes, I think so.
I still have mine, and it's yellow. It's actually like the waterproof version. I still have mine somewhere. So it doesn't look like this one, but I remember all sorts of kids growing up that had these. Like I said, I have one, but it's like a bright yellow, and it's actually meant to be like waterproof or water resistant or something like that.
Man, I remember having a CD Walkman that had weather stations and stuff on it. It was pretty fancy back then.
Asia says, I did. She had one, and she said, mine is blue and pink. So yeah, they came in a variety of different styles, but it does bring me back. It does bring me back for sure. Oh, by the way, Jacob had a comment earlier. I think he was talking about George Perez and his appearances. He says, I've never been a person to travel to any places. If they don't come to my hometown, I'll never get a chance to meet them. And I can understand that, Jacob. That does happen. A lot of us are not necessarily big travelers. I actually do like to travel, but usually my issue is the money. It's just too expensive to do.
Yes.
So one of the
highly relate to that.
One of the first images we get is they're kind of showing a little montage of Daniel and Johnny sort of banding together, and Johnny's style versus Daniel's style. And this is where he talks about Johnny talks about like the eagle thing. And he says, first, you got to learn how to fly. And you can see this image of the students. They look to be on the roof of a multi-story building. And then you can kind of see these like gross, like they look like they've been thrown away mattresses. And like right after this, it's kind of like the scene where Daniel's kind of like, dude, we're going to get like sued, for the way that you're training with these. And then they show this image here where we can see we're doing the human punching bag, and Johnny's like, hey, this is gonna help your core, So we can see the sort of contrasting styles of Johnny and Daniel, that they apparently are not going to get be meshing 100% as far as their teaching styles.
Yeah, definitely.
Val says, of course, Team Johnny. Val, I don't know if I'm Team Johnny anymore. We'll have to talk about that as when we round this out. I don't know. There's some interesting things here in the trailer that I definitely want to talk about and address. So then, one of the next images, of course, is Kreese, and he's talking about the fact that Daniel and Johnny says they're combining their styles to beat us, right? So it's like, what are we gonna do, right? What's the answer from Cobra Kai? Because now that Daniel and Johnny are combining forces. And then we can see here, this is kind of neat, where we actually see Johnny is kind of actually almost like training Daniel, right? He's kind of training him in his style. It's hard to see, but like this blurred image sort of, in the foreground, kind of to the right of the screen. That's actually like a a baseball, automatic, like, it shoots baseballs at you. And what Daniel's doing is like deflecting them. It's hard to tell in this image. And you can see the comments like, good, LaRusso, good, because Johnny apparently, it looks like, is actually showing Daniel some of that Cobra Kai style, or his style, the Eagle Sky style, I guess, whatever we're calling Johnny's faction at this point.
Eagle Fang.
Yeah, there you go. Eagle Fang. That's right. That's classic. That's absolutely classic. He came up with that all on his own too,
Yeah, they're like, do eagles have fangs? You're like, they do now.
Yeah. I thought this image was intriguing. So, because we can kind of see Terry Silver is like kind of punching and kicking at Kreese, and Kreese is just kind of standing there. And it's kind of interesting. Like the image prior to this, you see him take off his shoes. He goes into the dojo. So I'm kind of curious what this is about. Do you have any speculation, Johnny, about, or I'm sorry, Ronnie, about what this image might be about? Is it just teasing? Are they misleading us, or what?
I think he's sizing him up to see if he's still got it or not, to see if he's worthy to be in the dojo to help him.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Because Kreese is not like in any fighting defensive pose at all. Like, he's in a pose of just like, all right, let's see what you got.
What's interesting about this image too is that Ian Griffiths, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, it has apparently in good enough condition that he can actually pull this off. I thought that was impressive, because it means he can be a really formidable, opponent, which I think is really going to be awesome and interesting. So I was kind of surprised at this too.
And that might be part of the whole reason for this, right? Is just to kind of show that he still has it. Kind of the way, like, one of the things I loved was how strong Johnny comes on in that very first fight with the bullies, in the first season. And you're just like, we talked about it on this show multiple times, Dave and I, that, man, it makes you feel like, wish this guy had a little bit more of a career, because I feel like he could have had an action career, he could have been in action movies. And a lot of people, even in the Rogues Gallery, were talking about how, what if he got in the MCU at this point, because it just feels like he's definitely still got it. I would say more so than Ralph Macchio, actually, as far as that goes. I've been more impressed with the actor who plays Johnny, as far as he just seems to really be into it. Like, he really studied it, and he's like a real athlete, I guess is the way to put it. So yeah, this definitely might be kind of what they're trying to show here, is that, the actor definitely, he's got it, he's definitely got it. Regarding that earlier scene where Daniel and Johnny were sort of training with the baseball shooter, Mott said he'll probably get hit in the jewels with the baseball. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. And then Asia said, I think regarding this one, she says, Whistler from Blade needs to chill out. All right. So, and then we've got the image of the two of them together. So obviously we can see them very much so. Kreese and Terry Silver are now joining forces. This is obviously in the Cobra Kai dojo. We can see the students bowing to them. And I have to say that they look pretty awesome together, I think. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah. And that's the thing, is that I feel like Terry Silver is going to be more of an interesting presence than I even thought, because, I got excited when we got that original teaser that he was coming back. And I still hold to what I said before. I really feel like that with Terry Silver in the first movie, I really felt like that they were, if they could have, they would have had Seagal play that character. With the ponytail, the swagger, kind of just it kind of leans into sort of the myth about Seagal at that time. And so like I said, I'm just really impressed. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun to see him back as Terry Silver, but there's even a later scene in this trailer, which I told you, Eric, I thought was really impressive, where he's actually squaring off and actually basically intimidating Daniel, which I was really kind of impressed with. I mean, it's going to be an interesting new dynamic to the show. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I think they're trying to show that he's going to be bringing a lot to the table, because I'm sure there are fans that are concerned because, let's be honest, Karate Kid Part 3 is not like necessarily a highly regarded Karate Kid film, right? So there is a little bit of controversy in that regard. But, we talked about it last week, Dave, that it's kind of, to me, it's like, what they're doing, and what I love about the showrunners of Cobra Kai is that they're taking the best elements, even from, a quote unquote, say, mediocre movie, but they're taking the best elements from that and incorporating that into their show, because it's not like just because a movie is, quote unquote, bad, that everything in it is bad. A lot of times it's just that it wasn't done effectively. But like Terry Silver's a really interesting character, and the build-up from season 3, where we see Kreese's story and how these two became friends, why this man feels so indebted to Kreese, fantastic. I mean, the whole gladiator thing and all that kind of stuff, it was crazy, absolutely crazy. So we get a little bit more of the two of them. He says, I like this. Kreese is saying, I just want to make sure this actually, I think it's actually Terry Silver's line in this. He says, I just want to make sure this time we win. And that's one of my things too. I've talked about this on the show. It's like, we do need to see Cobra Kai win, because so far Cobra Kai seems to be getting their asses kicked all the time. So the menace is kind of starting to go away unless they do kick some ass. So I'm definitely wondering how that's all going to turn out, because how long can Cobra Kai keep getting their ass kicked, and yet we're going to feel menaced by them? So I kind of feel that. I feel this. I feel like Cobra Kai needs to win this time. So. And then we got image here of the Cobra Kai students training, and this is really interesting because what Robbie is doing, and he sets this up, is basically he's telling his fellow students, hey, to beat these guys, we need to know how they operate. And of course, he trained at Miyagi-Do. So he says, show me wax on, wax off to Tori, which I think is really intriguing. So he's basically giving Cobra Kai the secrets of Miyagi-Do karate. What do you guys think of that? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be trouble for the Miyagi-Do folks for sure.
And it's really intriguing because it makes sense, because this guy has trained with both dojos, right? So it does kind of make sense that now that he's on he's on Team Cobra Kai, that he's going to start showing them some of those Miyagi-Do secrets. And Hollywood Jackson says, winning, right? There we go. That's what it's all about, man. And that insider knowledge is what's gonna help them in that regard. Of course, Johnny's got that on the other side as well, since he's Cobra Kai. So, and he's trying to train the Miyagi-Do guys more in that, the way of the fist, the Cobra Kai aggressive kind of stuff. Yeah,
interesting.
Matthew mentions that's walking a fine line, sharing those secrets. That's right. It does kind of show where this character's going, that he doesn't have that respect for Daniel anymore, that he is willing to show Cobra Kai the secrets of Miyagi-Do. I think that's also a good point. He is kind of crossing a line there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we got this neat exchange where Terry Silver is kind of training with I'm almost terrible with his name, with Robbie. He's one of my least favorite characters, and I've said that on the show before, so I have difficulty sometimes remembering his name of Robbie. But this is interesting exchange. It does kind of hark back in a lot of ways to Karate Kid Part 3, where you're seeing Terry's kind of screwing with Robbie here. He was saying basically he's talking about balance, which is interesting because that's a Miyagi-Do thing, right? We talk about balance.
Mhm.
But in this scene, Terry Silver's talking about balance, and what he's doing is he's basically sweeping this guy. He's sweeping Robbie like crazy, to literally keep him off balance, which kind of goes back to, I guess, like sweep the leg, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of showing him that. It's kind of interesting to contrast when Miyagi-Do talks about balance. We see them like in the pond, right? And they're on the board and stuff like that. When Terry Silver and Cobra Kai are talking about balance, he's talking about he's sweeping this guy all over the place. I thought that was interesting. It's a contrast, right? It's the same idea, but it's the way that they teach it and the way that they affect it is totally differently from Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai.
Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that like one of the lines that Terry Silver said to Daniel LaRusso in Karate Kid 3? If a man can't stand, he can't fight.
I think Dave's he's muted.
Okay.
Sorry, no, yes, you're correct. That is, yeah. If a man can't stand, a man can't fight. You are correct. Sorry.
And by the way, the Rose Gallery was right on that. Motz was like, "Yep."
Sweet. That's what I thought. Thank you. I thought that was interesting that he's going to be putting him through the same hell that he put LaRusso through.
Yeah, definitely. I think that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And all right, so then we got a scene here with Kreese coming up to Johnny, and he's stirring the pot, right? And Johnny Lawrence is playing second fiddle, huh? Right? Kind of trying to put that wedge that we know Daniel and Johnny, I don't think are going to just get along famously. Like, I think there is still going to be some conflict. And, Kreese is definitely trying to stoke that flame, trying to use Johnny's ego, right? Trying to use Johnny's ego against him. Because he does have an ego.
Yeah, he's definitely getting into the psychological mind games. That's what Kreese does.
Yes, and he does that quite well.
Yeah.
And we get a little bit more of that. We kind of see we kind of see more of that kind of maybe that rift that might develop in the course of this season where Johnny and Daniel are talking, and it's like Daniel's like basically saying, so now you know what's best. Well, actually, it's Johnny that's like saying to Daniel, like, so now you know what's best for Miguel, because Miguel is like literally like Johnny's boy in a lot of ways. He's like his surrogate son, even more so than his real son, right? With all the issues with Robbie. So that's going to be, I think that can be an area of contention too, where, Daniel now has this opportunity to kind of teach Miguel, right? And is Johnny going to be sort of resentful of that relationship, right?
Yeah, I could definitely see that's going to be that. They're definitely going to play with that concept for sure, because they've done a good job actually revisiting that concept in the other seasons. So they're definitely going to play with that.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And then speaking of Miguel, we get a kind of little scene here where we see that it looks like Miguel and Sam are going to be kind of getting back together. So this looks like maybe their prom or something like that. So it looks like their romance is going to pick up a little bit. But then we also have this sort of contrasting image, and it looks like it's the same dance. Look who comes in. Look who's a couple now. It's Rob and Tori. Right, so now the two of them appeared. By the way, I like their style. I have to say, I do think that they're looking good as they're coming in like that. I am a Tori fan. I like her. I'm not that big of a Sam fan, to be honest with you. I like Tori better. So I don't know why that is. Usually I like the nice girl. I'm usually not the bad girl type, honestly.
Yeah, I like Tori more too.
Yeah, there's just something about her. Maybe it's just, and it really might just come down to the actresses, honestly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Got this image here. This is, I think, what you were talking about, Dave. I think you were saying this is a kind of a big moment for you in the trailer. This is where Terry Silver is getting in Daniel's face, and that's the line right there. There's always been a little Cobra Kai in you, and Daniel talked about that previously, that he was Cobra Kai, in Karate
Right.
Kid Part 3. He was training with Cobra Kai. He abandoned Miyagi. He abandoned him and wouldn't listen to him and decided to join Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and like I said, this is I knew it was going to be fun having, Ian Griffith on the show back as Terry Silver, but when I saw this scene in the trailer in particular, I was going, oh yeah, this is gonna probably be a little bit more fun and interesting than I was even originally thinking. So
yeah, and it definitely feeds off of Karate Kid Part 3. Regarding this previous image of Rob and Tori, I saw this comment from Asia that I thought was pretty funny. She said, we get up there, they look like the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper. Laugh out loud. They do look a little menacing, right? There is some lighting there and everything like that they do kind of have that kind of vibe going down. And then I did think that this was a neat image of Daniel going to visit the grave of Mr. Miyagi. So
I feel like that's the one thing in the show that is, I mean, it's just, I know I personally miss it so much, is that Pat Morita can't be a part of this. I mean, he kind of is, his legacy is, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I keep coming back to this same basic idea. I feel like that Daniel could really use someone in his corner, to help him through this journey that he's going through.
Yeah, but obviously they are kind of contrasting a little bit with the fact that he, Johnny is now on his side. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be all smooth sailing, but
right.
Johnny is with him. At least it appears that way, right? That they're going to be, joining forces. There could be a twist at some point where there's some breakage there or something, we don't know. So he's not exactly alone, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I definitely feel the absence of Pat Morita, of Mr. Miyagi. But I love the fact the showrunners call this the Miyagi-verse. That's their canon. Yeah. That's their continuity. They call it the Miyagi-verse. So I think that's an awesome tribute to him. And like I said, I just thought this was a cool little scene. The voiceover, by the way, where it says, "Truth is, it doesn't matter which way you fight as long as it works." That's Robbie talking. There's kind of like this montage where, Robbie's been talking about, adapting basically the ways of like Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, of fusing them together. So it's kind of fun because that while Johnny and Daniel are doing that, Robbie's doing the same thing at Cobra Kai. He's fusing the two together as well, which I think is really interesting.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how they're going to clash in the ring. Well, not the ring, but the mat.
Right.
But yeah, it's just because they're both going to come at each other, and they're like, oh, they're just going to use their classic styles, and they're both going to be like, wait, what? So
yeah, I think that's going to be part of it as well, right? That there's going to be some surprises there as far as who knows what, and the expectation of the Cobra Kai guys versus the Miyagi-Do guys and all that kind of stuff. There's also this image that's interesting. This is obviously a new character, and you can see obviously he's going to be on Team Cobra Kai. In fact, he's actually on the poster, the official season 4 poster. So it appears that this is going to be a somewhat major character. I'll pull up the poster again real quick, because we had it for the last show. So if you look at the season 4 poster, you can see him in this image on Team Cobra Kai. So I am curious about this new character. The previous image of him in this trailer, and there was also in the teaser trailer, I think what we talked about before, Dave, there's this sort of editing in both of them where it makes it kind of look like maybe Hawk is picking on this kid because he looks like he's really small. And they did the same thing in this trailer where they kind of do like a thing where it looks like, maybe Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do are kind of getting in a confrontation or something like that. And they show this particular character in like the hallway, obviously at school. And the way it's edited, it does kind of make it look like maybe Hawk is picking on this kid. And so I'm thinking maybe they'll use a little bit more of that classic, flipping of the script that we've seen in Cobra Kai a lot, where maybe Hawk, isn't totally over being a bully. You know what I mean? And maybe he does bully this kid, and he does actually drive him to Cobra Kai. So, it's pure speculation on my part. I'm just trying to, get something out of the trailer. But I am curious about this character and what his story is going to be, because like from the poster, it appears he's going to be a major character, a new major character in the show. And then, of course, we sort of end where they're talking about the tournament. And there's this line that says, "This proposal will revolutionize the tournament." And they show like the tournament, the directors of the tournament are like voting on something. And I'm curious if you guys had any speculation, and I'm also curious if the Rogues Gallery has any speculation. What do you think this big move at the tournament's going to be? Because they really, I don't feel like they really alluded to anything as far as what the move's going to be. Like there's just like one of the guys being like, "Oh crap," or something like that. Like this is going to be terrible or whatever. And it appears like they're saying, "Yes, we're going to do this. We're going to change the All Valley tournament." And I'm curious if you guys had any thoughts on that, and also the Rogues Gallery on what that possibly could be.
I think it's going to have something to do with possibly televising it.
Okay.
And that would introduce obviously a new wrinkle to the drama of kind of the show. But I think that might be the thing that they're kind of sort of hinting or alluding to. I could be totally wrong, though, but that's just my initial impression. I think that they're going to do something like that.
Ronnie, did you have any thought on that?
I'm actually going to go with Dave's theory there. It's at first it's like maybe they're changing like some rule sets or something like that, but with like them like with the safety issues and stuff like that, I don't think that would be plausible with like all the fighting and stuff that had happened before, and they just got the tournament back. So like I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But televising, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Well, Bots has what I thought might be it. He said cage match. And I was thinking one of the missed opportunities of Cobra Kai is MMA, and that they haven't talked about how things have changed and how MMA has become so popular. In fact, Dave and I have talked about how that might be kind of the missed opportunity of Cobra Kai, that they haven't kind of explored that at all. One of the big Cobra Kai guys, the bully, he's supposed to be a wrestler, for instance, right? And it's like they haven't really exploited that. So I don't have any evidence of this, but I just think because they haven't really done that, I thought it would be interesting if they actually changed the format of the fighting style that Ronnie, like you were kind of mentioning, like there's some rule changes where they can make it more MMA style, and it kind of changes everything, right? Because that's not really their style of fighting. You know what I mean? It's like they're not used to that. They are more, more of that sort of pure karate, if you will. Even though we have seen like the ability of, say, like Johnny to like grapple and flip people and things like that. It's not their thing, fighting on the ground. I have no evidence of that. I just thought it is one of those like little missed opportunities in Cobra Kai to kind of bring that in because MMA is so popular these days. And I just thought that would be really interesting if they literally were changing like the rules of the fighting styles. Like now you can do ground and pound and stuff like that.
or if like they're not just limited to karate anymore. Like maybe they can use other different fighting styles, and they come in there and it's just a martial arts tournament. It's just a karate tournament now.
Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting. I don't know if that's where they're going to go, but again, I feel like that's one of the missed opportunities of the show is to show that, because things have changed since the 80s and the explosion of MMA and all that kind of stuff. And that's one thing. There's actually a deleted scene. Dave was the one who told me about it, where there's a scene where Johnny in the first season actually goes to like an MMA, like a gym, and he's like that's when he's like giving out his little flyers for that he's bringing back Cobra Kai, and there was like this little confrontation, and they actually took it out. And I've lamented that many times, that I kind of wish that they would have done something with that, like that, because it just feels like it's kind of like ignoring this huge part of where combat fighting is today versus where it was in the 80s when karate was like the thing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where the show is gonna probably go, because it does change the stakes quite a bit.
Hollywood Jackson goes even further, right? Like we're talking WrestleMania here. He says off the top rope with a chair.
All right.
We do have quite a few comments in the Rogues Gallery, Dave, for you. As far as the coloring goes, he says Val Suarez says it's looking good. It looks good, Dave.
Oh, thank you. It's I'm going kind of quick. It's a little bit rougher than I'd like, but
I think it looks excellent too. And Mott says, "Wow, looks great, Dave."
Thank you.
Jane says, "Looking awesome, Dave." So definitely, we've got some people digging on the artwork right now.
Cool. Thank you. What is up with that? Okay, there it is.
Val had a funny comment that I missed earlier, and he said, "When Chuck Norris watches Cobra Kai, all the cast members get black eyes."
That's pretty good.
I dig that. Val, I actually have a book of the Chuck Norris facts. I don't know what I did with it. I got it somewhere, and that stuff is hilarious. I love that stuff. And that'd be so cool if Chuck Norris came on this show. Man, that would be so freaking awesome. Just a cameo. Then it's like I'd have like, you could have like Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme. It would just be really neat if they just kind of just showed up. I don't know. I think
that would actually be. I think that'd be pretty fun.
All those great icons of martial arts back in the 80s.
I'm a Lundgren man myself.
That would be cool too.
Yeah,
that would be
amazing.
Sweet. We were talking a little bit last week, Ronnie, about the Rocky IV director's cut. Are you familiar with that?
I keep seeing it on Amazon Prime, and I've heard some about it. I don't know exactly. They added more footage?
Yeah, and what they did was they used like a lot of alternative takes. And I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I'll tell you, there is this documentary that they did. And it's actually on like the Sylvester Stallone Store YouTube channel. So like if you look up like Sylvester Stallone Store, it's like his official channel for marketing, like official merchandise, right? They actually did like an hour-long documentary that Sylvester Stallone's friend, I guess, just did with an iPhone. And part of what they talk about is the fact that basically the reason that Sylvester Stallone did this was because of the lockdown with COVID, and he didn't have anything to do. So he was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and re-edit Rocky IV. But it's free on YouTube, and that documentary is actually really, really interesting. I haven't got a chance to see the director's cut, but that documentary, I think if you just search Rocky IV director's cut, it comes up. It's one of the more popular searches because it's already been watched so many times, and it's really fascinating because it's it's really just like Sylvester Stallone, like at his most basic, because it's just him. There's like an editor in the room, right? And then just this guy, and it's just him talking. He's talking about his career. He's talking about why he decided to do the re-edit, and talking about some of the things that he regrets about the film. Like he actually talks about how he regrets killing Apollo Creed, and how different would the franchise be if he hadn't killed Apollo Creed. Like he talks about this idea. There was this idea of actually having Apollo Creed survive the fight but be paralyzed, and he would be in a wheelchair for the rest of the movies and stuff. And I think, wow, that would have been really fascinating, So it's really interesting. Like I said, I haven't actually seen the director's cut yet, but I'm a Dolph Lundgren fan. We've talked about the Masters of the Universe live action film on this show. We did a review of it, so we definitely got some Dolph Lundgren love on this channel. So.
Sweet.
And I saw a news article that actually said that the Dolph Lundgren Punisher film is on Netflix, and it's actually been doing pretty well. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I saw some kind of a news report kind of about that, which I thought was interesting. Maybe I was mistaken, but I thought I did.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I would actually like to revisit it. I think that would be interesting. Asia says.
Go ahead.
Asia was saying, when I worked in IT, I would make my teammates Chuck Norris paper pop dolls, and she says to Ronnie, he says, "Dolph is my boy. Justice for He-Man."
There you go.
Oh, Mott's brought up also my little theory as far as because he also seemed to be kind of along the same lines of what that tournament format change might be. He says also maybe that is why you see Daniel going to Miyagi's grave. He's torn between the proposed tournament formats. Maybe that's why he goes to visit Miyagi to try to figure that out. Maybe he doesn't agree with it,
Interesting.
That would be an interesting thing, actually, for the show to do. I don't think they would do that, but if Daniel was to realize that, basically this is essentially a no-win scenario, and that in order to properly honor, Miyagi, he needs to basically walk away from this because it's just escalating out of control. Kind of like what his wife was saying. That would be an interesting direction for the show to go in, and then the show could focus back more on Johnny. I don't think they're going to do that, but that would be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And then regarding that director's cut for Rocky IV, I think Hollywood Jackson was saying Rocky should have just fought Picard, right? So we've always got to get a Picard reference in the show.
Man.
Thanks to Hollywood.
There you go. There you go.
It's become the trademark at this point. So
yeah, I'm about to start watching that series soon. So
Asia, regarding the drawing, Dave says, Dave, that piece is giving me a metal lunchbox vibe, and I am here for this.
Thank you. Very kind. I'm probably gonna do just a little bit more and then let it go, as the song says, just because we're at 1 hour 40 minutes. It needs a lot of tightening up, but I feel like at least it's kind of in a decent spot. So
I think it's looking awesome.
Yeah, man.
Oh, thanks. One of my favorite things since I was a kid that I still love is Earl Norem actually did a book on tape, Fantastic Four adventure type thing. He did the artwork for it, and it's all painted, and it's absolutely incredible, and I've loved it since I was a kid, and I always draw a lot of inspiration from it. I'm trying to think of that while I'm doing this, but it's not near as intricate or, detailed. But I was kind of like thinking in my head, it's like I can't get too crazy with this because we want to actually have something done, during the show.
Well, Asia says, Dave, we both know it's tight enough. And Hollywood says, he's on fire. Fire. Fire.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's going to be good, everybody. I could keep going, but my battery's going to start dying here at some point, and that's actually what caused my power issue earlier. Is that I was trying to plug this thing in just in case, and I friggin' disconnected the cord from the outlet. And thank you, Asia, for that compliment. I agree. I think it, for as quick as it's thrown together, I think it's pretty tight too.
Yeah, I think it looks excellent.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm a big
Awesome.
Thing fan, by the way, so I love images of the Thing, and this is a great image of him. Just the essence of the character in my mind. It just looks awesome.
And again, all I did is coloring. The artwork here is by the great George Perez. This is George Perez's art. We're just coloring it here in his honor.
Well, coloring is a very important part of the business, as you know, especially if you do color comics, right? So it's huge. A very, very important part of the industry. And I think you did an awesome job. I think it looks great.
Cool. Thanks. Very cool. All right. Let's see. Do we have any more comments in the Rogues Gallery?
Mott says, you have honored him, I'm sure meaning George Perez, well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Cool. All right. Unless there's any other comments from the Rogues Gallery, I think we might be good, guys, unless there's anything else anybody else wants to say.
I'm good.
All right, cool. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the outro then. I want to thank all of you for hopefully watching or listening to this episode of the Retro Rogues Live. I want to thank our special guest, Mr. Ronnie Shenks, who was on here talking about the Heavenscape RPG game. Ronnie, please tell the folks, hope you're watching or listening at home, where they can learn more about you on the interwebs.
Yeah, you can go to www.SaturdayNightGamingLLC.com. That has links to everywhere for our where you can purchase the game, where you can listen to our podcast, and also check out the YouTube drama too. And also has a little other things that are upcoming and stuff like that. So, but that is where you can find me, and that's where you can find Scott Hibbard and Tony Stevens as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you again, Ronnie, for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. So again, my name is Dave Beatty. I've been one of your hosts. If you're curious to learn more about me, you can or see what occupies a lot of my time, you can definitely check out my t-shirt company. That's Kirby Tees. That's KIRBYTS.com. Over there at Kirby Tees, you can find all kinds of great t-shirts, such as the Brains Are Magic by Sarah Aerosmith, the Skeletor, which is great, basically actually designed by the Janimal and myself, a great collaboration. There's also a lot of other fun stuff on there, as well as the Retro Rogues Live t-shirts. We'd like to encourage you to possibly consider purchasing a Retro Rogues Live t-shirt and supporting what we are doing here on the show. We would greatly appreciate your support. And I want to thank everyone who has actually purchased a Retro Rogues Live t-shirt and done that very same thing. We greatly appreciate that. As always, great co-host, Mr. Eric Alexander, who's on here, always providing his unique perspective and point of view and opinions on all these great things we like to talk about, kinds of pop culture and also other kinds of awesome stuff. Eric, please tell the folks, hopefully watching, listening home, where they can learn more about you on the interwebs.
Well, I do want to thank Ronnie again for being on the show. I did go ahead and share that link again. I've also got a little, where's my banner? Sorry about that. So remember, www.saturdaynightgaming.llc.com. I did share that again in the chat. So, folks, please check that out. Please support what he's doing over there. We always appreciate it when we have a guest on the show. As for me, you can find me most easily on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. I'm at BaseGod14, at BASSGOD14. That's also the official Twitch. That's also the official YouTube. So if you comment on any of those channels, more likely than not, I'll be the one responding to you. I do appreciate comments. I do appreciate very much when people DM me. The Rogues Gallery is pretty good about DMing me about stuff, and we do talk about it on the show. Obviously, I think Mott's brought up George Perez, and I knew that was going to happen, especially with Dave's knowledge. So I'm glad we were able to do that. So please keep those DMs coming if you have something you want us to talk about on the show. Jane says a great fun show. Asia says thank you for stopping by, Ronnie. Definitely appreciate that. Hollywood says great show, guys. We very, very, very much appreciate that. And Jacob out there from YouTube, he says great stream, guys. Thank you, Jacob. We really appreciate that. We appreciate you being here and commenting. And then Mott says good night, all. Off to read and enjoy some more art from George Perez before I go to bed. And I think we'll go ahead and leave Mott's with the last word.